we are live. Welcome to episode 1 of the Formula One Fans of America show. I'm your host, Rich, and with me I have longtime friend Jay, good friend Greg, and new friend Fabian. So yeah, thanks for tuning in and thanks for listening to us. We got a lot to talk about. A lot of things happening off the grid, so probably just as much off the grid talk as what went on over the race this weekend. Sort of a snooze fest of the race. We'll get into it in a little bit. But first, we're going to clarify some we were right, we were wrong from our predictions on the last show that we did together, the Pit Stop podcast. We all made a podium prediction. None of us had Merck on top. We all kind of agree that we thought they were going to struggle. I think that one-stop strategy really helped George. No? Well, eventually not. I guess his tires showed up when his car shows up underweight. Probably didn't help him. We'll talk about that in a little bit too, obviously. We had the wrong Ferrari driver on the podium. None of us thought it was going to be Charles Leclerc, but it was. Good for him. Yep. All of us called Oscar coming out and doing well. A few of us all said Lando. But I kind of agreed, but Lando blew it on the first turn. We'll talk about that as well. What else? We were right about Greg was right about something.
So
go ahead, Greg.
I was right that Merck was the fourth fastest car. What we didn't count on was Red Bull having so much downforce, and we'll put Ferrari in that same category, that they actually were just too slow on a dry race day. I didn't necessarily see Ham or Russell like being at the forefront, but I think Hamilton was helped by being in clear air the whole day. He managed to get in front of Norris, stay in front of Norris, and that did wonders for his race. And then once George got in clear air, that did wonders for making his tires go the distance. The fact that the car was underweight was probably more of an indicator that there was no safety car and that it's a short in lap. But yeah, holy moly. We were sort of right, just didn't see the outcome. We had a fuzzy Palantir ball.
Yep, it was interesting. What did you guys think about that race? So it seemed like all the excitement to me was in the beginning and then maybe the last 8 laps. Otherwise, I literally fell asleep halfway through it. I'd taken a Benadryl, but I still had fallen asleep. And it was just man, I didn't miss much when I went back to rewatch it. So I wasn't even upset about it. It was just the DRS train kind of ruined it, I think. And there was not a lot of passing zones on this track. It's one of my favorite tracks of all time, but just not really great for Formula One. I think I'm not sure exactly what the causation is of all this, but there's certain tracks now, especially these older legacy tracks, Monaco being another, where these new cars, it's just not entertaining to watch anymore. Until you start to get into things like the tire strategy and pit strategy and seeing how things are going to go for everybody. What was your guys' impression of this weekend?
I love the opening of it. The opening of the race was phenomenal. Me being in the Lewis camp and wanting to see him do well so that he can get that killer spirit going again as he slides into his new team next year. And then, of course, new regs in 26. It was awesome to see Checo nearly hit him 4 times right off the start, basically, and Lewis hold the line real tight, not get twitchy about it, and then just run it up after the first turn to go into Eau Rouge and make Checo bail out. And when that happened, I was like, oh man, this could be good. And sure enough, it turned out to be really good, because subsequently he wound up taking the race lead and dominating, the race for a long period of time, which then had me thinking, okay, he's got this in the bag. And then the strategy on the pit stops was cool right up until Russell modified his, and I didn't see the Russell overtakes, coming in that way. But when it did, it was like, oh boy, we might have a problem. What was really curious about it was that Hamilton was on fresher tires, right? And yet was still struggling to catch up to him. But I did notice that it was visually obvious to me that he wasn't forcing the issue, especially when he had the DRS encroachment. It seemed like he had made a decision that he wasn't going to go too far trying to get that and blow a 1-2 for the team. That was my impression of it, just by the way it looked, because I've watched him race a lot. And it seemed like there were some opportunities for him to swoop in and cut through, and he chose to just ease off of it a little bit. I don't know if that's what it was, but that's what it looked like to me. But that part then became really exciting again. So the first, 8 laps were great, and then the last 8 or 9 laps were also pretty great.
Agreed. Jay, you were going to go ahead. What did you think about this weekend?
Qualifying was infinitely better than the actual race itself. I would say Red Bull and Ferrari both picking to opt for the weather forecast, which originally, I think we even spoke about this, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, that I was looking it up to see if I would actually go to Spa since I'm right here. And it was supposed to be like torrential downpour that entire weekend. And I'm like, I'm not going. So, I mean, they're that. But honestly, one of probably the more boring spas I've seen besides 2021. I mean, it was just, I think the weather actually adds into Spa's legacy, to be honest. I fell asleep for the majority of it, and I don't even have the excuse of Benadryl. So, yeah, no, I don't know what was going on with that race. It was in just none of the top teams were able to do anything. I'm starting to think that Mercedes has unlocked it. I know you're a huge Lewis fan there, Fabian, but I think the killer instinct being back in Lewis is just going to get his spirit crushed next year based on how bad Ferrari is just absolutely shit the bed this year so far now. Like, they had it up until Monaco, and it feels like, oh, hey, we're going to lift Charles Leclerc's Monaco curse, but we're going to screw the team for the rest of the year. Because they were like, oh, this car's so easy to upgrade, and everything's working, and now it's not. And I think Lewis is going to be real pissed that he made that switch next year. But as far as the actual race goes, good for Oscar, shitty for Russell. Like, that's got to be the biggest kick in the balls to lose your 26 points that you got off winning the race for 3 pounds. Like, that could be anything could have happened, including not getting the tire gravel on it. That's it. Like, something that dumb
marbles
should not.
Is what they call it.
Yeah, marbles. Thank you. I couldn't even think about it. So, realistically, I would put that up there. Not as bad as Monaco, but probably the second worst race of the year so far.
So I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree with a bunch of y'all. I actually like the race. I was out all day racing real cars, and I came home expected to fall asleep in front of the race. So I was tired. It was hot out all day long, just ripped the energy out of me. And I was awake like halfway through, and I'm like, wow, look at all this strategy and people moving through the field and who's actually leading and who's going to dip in, who's going to undercut. Like, I get a kick out of that strategy. I like watching it. I wish I could have watched it live with a second screen up for data, but it was not meant to be. I had other stuff to do. I thought the race was great. And then when George made that final call, I agree. The last part of the race was like, holy moly, this is going to come down to the wire. It did look like Lewis wasn't trying to take every chance there to try and catch him. But I also heard that, it takes a half a second per lap difference in order to actually get by somebody, because you got to come up out of Eau Rouge and then start the run down. So you got to have it timed perfectly. And it looked like Lewis was trying to get it timed perfectly, but couldn't quite get it done. Whereas, Piastri was coming with a force. Like, that car is moving through the field. He was a man on a mission, and given a few more laps, I wonder if he could have made it by Lewis. And I wonder if that would have changed Mercedes' decision about what they did with each car. Because Toto had his hand on the button, but he was leaned back in the chair. Like, he was like, I'm going to push this if somebody does something stupid. But I do want to make note that they changed the DRS range this year to make it shorter. And I think despite the announcers trying to sell it like, oh, this is so much better, they're running nose to tail the whole time. Like, no, like we needed some more passing. And there were certainly cars that could do it. There was the notion that, Max running high downforce was going to be better on his tires. And here we had, what's his face? George out there on old ass tires, just going the distance. He made it. Had his car just had a little more fuel in it or whatever, if they had just not run it so close to the limit, he would have been our race winner. And I think it's a little unfair to take the entire win away from him, but they do have to enforce rules. I get that. So, whatever the case is, he was not a contender for the championship anyway. So it's like, maybe not the end of the world. But at the end of the year, we're all going to go, but if he had those other 25 or 26 points, like that would have been good. So I enjoyed the race. I love watching the cars go around Spa. They actually move around, and it's dangerous to be on some of the curbs, and it's uphill, it's downhill. I got my money's worth out of that race. Would it have been great if the DRS passing was a little better? Yeah, I think it would have been even better, but I don't think it was a bad race. I think it was a good race. Over.
Hey, Rich, can I punch something in real quick?
Your rebuttal. Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is breaking news, and apparently this is really real, so I want to just talk about it. So Racing News and Grand Prix have both confirmed that Checo is staying with Red Bull for the remainder of the season. The statement is from Horner is Checo remains a Red Bull racing driver despite all the speculation of recent times. We look forward to seeing him perform on circuits where he has done well before after the summer break.
Now, listen to what Horner actually said right there.
Mm-hmm.
What is every driver with a Red Bull contract or Racing Bulls contract clearly state?
Mm-hmm.
They are all
this means one. This could mean one of several things. Yes, this could mean one of several things. This could mean that he stays in his current seat. This could mean he gets demoted. This could mean that he becomes a reserve driver and does marketing the way DR3 did. That statement is very nebulous because it just means they're not going to fire him and completely void his contract out. So I'm still not confirmed on this. I'm still going to wait until I see this from Formula One or from ESPN. No, it's hard for me to say it's confirmed.
It's everywhere.
The statement itself, though, doesn't necessarily confirm it. But I mean, that would be a huge we were wrong. And I think not just us, but literally
I just hope that somebody who's listening didn't know it and he heard it here first.
I hope so.
So cutting edge news.
Breaking.
So here's the other thing. They would not have planned to run Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo this week against each other if they're planning on actually keeping Checo in that seat. There's no way in hell. They're doing testing, and it's Ricciardo and Lawson. Not Yuki, not Max, those two. So unless if they're going to try to pull Ricciardo out of the RB seat, which I don't think they're going to do because he's been beating Tsunoda lately. It may not be for points, but he's beating him in the as far as in the position. So you've got to look at it that way. I don't know. I don't think this Checo saga is over because I can't see Horner or Marco standing for this anymore. He literally blew a easy second place finish because he can't drive.
We're putting a lot of pressure on this summer break. There is nothing preventing them from dropping him towards the end of the season to give somebody else a taste of the car before the next season, right? They might be like, yeah, he's coming back after summer. And Sergio's like, oh, thank gosh. And then he drives more calmly. But if he messes up anywhere between the end of the summer break and the end of the year, just get rid of him and put somebody else in the car. Put Lawson in the car. See what he can do for 3 races. And be like, here you do. No pressure. Let's just see what you do for a couple races. I mean, obviously that's not the case with Max in the other seat, but whatever.
So this also brings up another interesting thing is the fact that there is still rumors flying around about Max going to Mercedes. Absolutely everywhere. And he's not even bothering denying them anymore. So it's is it possible? Is that why they're leaving Checo there in order to have at least one guy with experience with the car for turnover next year? So that way they can get the evaluations in Bahrain. Wait, no, they're not doing testing in Bahrain next year. I think it's in Australia. But regardless, they're still going to be doing the testing, and they still have to have that continuity to see which way is up, everything like that.
Right.
I'm still not sold that they're going to leave him in that Red Bull seat. I'm really not. Like, it's one thing to say he's a Red Bull or RBR driver. It's another thing to say that he's a Red Bull driver. If he would just came out and said that, then I would completely agree and say, yeah, we're in for a shit season for Red Bull because Max cannot hold the championship by himself. So I can't believe the Mateschitz family is letting this slide, or the Thai brand side. I really can't.
Yep, interesting news. So, Carlos Sainz finally made up his decision. It was going to be my prediction of, like, for this week, the predictive prompt, and like what are we going to guess what he decides over the summer break? But he's already beat that to the punch. So he's going to Williams. I actually called this, I think, 3 weeks ago and said that it would make sense for him to go to Williams, a team that's developing and trying to completely revamp things. They've hired over 24 people, so you got a bunch of new faces over there really trying to improve their program. And he'll be racing with Alex Albon, who also does not have an appendix. I did not know this about either one of them. Just
Who do we think
is it like
is going to be
they're
the better
saving
driver?
weight?
Do you not remember the jokes at the beginning of the year with that? Like whenever Sainz went down and then came back and won the Australian Grand Prix? That's why Behrman got his shot.
I do remember that about him. I do remember. Yeah, I remember he had his appendix taken out. I didn't know Albon.
Albon got his removed, and that's how Nick DeVries drove his car at Monza, I do believe it was.
And did very well with it, I might add.
Yep.
So if you're an F1 driver or an F2 or 3 driver, get your appendix taken out now. Don't wait for a race weekend and for this thing to rupture. You don't need it. Get it removed.
Let's do the prediction now. Who's going to be the better driver, like 4 or 5 races in next year at Williams? Albon or Sainz?
Sainz.
Ooh, I'm going to say Albon.
100%.
Oh,
Okay.
the clauses in that man's contract are incredible, by the way. I could not find the link for you, but it has literally been announced by both parties. There is a clause in his contract that if either the Mercedes seat opens up or a Red Bull seat opens up, he can leave immediately. Like, done.
Whoa.
Yeah, like it's that style of contract. So
That's how bad they wanted him.
I've seen something about it being multi-year versus a single year. I'm not sure which way is up on that one yet. But I mean, I hope for his sake it's a multi-year, because he turned down a lot of teams that he could have gotten a drive from, probably for a lot more money than Williams too, for multi-year. And to take that one is just questionable.
It makes a lot of sense, though. I talked about in that piece that I did a couple of weeks ago about how he demonstrated a tremendous amount of patience in the process because he knows he's a good driver. It's not, there's no question that the man is very skilled. He's got a couple of wins. He's got a lot of points. He's also, he's got the PR media side of it very well down. And he knows what his worth is. So he knew that he could take his time and try to see, what was going to be the best thing for him. And it definitely doesn't surprise me one bit that he's got really nice out clauses in there, because, to get somebody like Sainz at Williams, that's a coup, basically, truthfully. It really is. And hopefully, we'll get to see the fruits of his desire, which is to put them up higher, in the field, and to generate a lot of wins and points. And, we don't expect them to burn the world down. But if they're in a much better position than they are this year, he's already achieved his goal. And that raises his real estate for the other teams as well. So it's a really smart play, ultimately, on his part. He kind of lowered the bar of expectations so he can look like a rock star.
Yeah, I believe that's what took so long for this deal to get done. It's probably a bunch of agent and lawyers. I'm both sides, hashing this out and making sure his causes are there and he gets what he wants out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, they get arguably one of the better drivers on the grid, certainly a top 10 driver. So I think it's a great move for both parties. And it's also a great move for him to include those clauses in his contract. Sometimes the news and announcements is a little bit peculiar. Like, it still boggles my mind. And I think it was leaked from Ferrari. It wasn't Lewis's, desire to have it come out that he was going to leave Mercedes, basically a year before this started. Like, I can't imagine going to work every day after putting in your notice for like the next year. Like, yeah, hey, by the way, I quit. I'm still going to work here, but I'm not going to work here anymore. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It boggles my mind how you can manage that, like interpersonal relationships, especially with such a long tenure that he had at Mercedes.
Yeah.
And so it's more funny to me than anything, but it's just like, man, how do you do that? I can't fathom this in any other industry or environment where it would go like seemingly as well as it is.
Yeah, he and Toto went through pretty much a roller coaster ride with that. There was some immediate animosity that lingered for a while, and then eventually, cooler heads prevailed, and they started looking at the legacy of what they created together and focusing on that, and thinking, look, there's no reason to expect that you would stay here forever. And when you short arm a guy like that with the contract offer like they gave him, they shouldn't have too many other expectations than he would do something. So, but it was interesting to read about Toto's journey from the start of the year until just a few weeks ago, actually, on where he landed with all that. Because he was pretty candid about, being a little jaded and a little angry about it. And he's like, yeah, but it's Lewis, we were lucky to have him. So it's pretty wild stuff. It's very dramatic stuff for sure.
Yeah, it's you can see the emotion coming out from both sides when they discuss this, and whether that emotion is, in the early days, bitterness and anger, or just sort of resentment from Lewis's end. And yeah, feeling jaded, rightfully so, with the kind of crap offer that they gave him. And yeah, you're talking about right now the winningest driver of all time and the most winning driver on the grid. He's going to demand a certain set of expectations. You guys got anything else for like the timing of these announcements and how they come out? Sometimes they're leaked, sometimes they're, leaked or strategically leaked. Sometimes it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, when it's leaked by the press people, that's strategy. When it's leaked because somebody got the information and they can't hold water, that's just unfortunate, because sometimes it works against, what the master plan would be. The press people always tell you, if you know something, let me know first, so we can figure out how we're going to approach this. And so to get sandbagged like that, and have an end around happen and it pops out of nowhere, it's a bad day for your press director, because the first thing they're thinking is, did you leak this? Did we approve this? There's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes with that. So the timing of it, this particular year with the Lewis thing, of course, and then the lead up to the Sainz thing coming right on the heels of the last race before the break, that was obviously well scripted and planned. But, the writing was on the wall with the Sainz-Williams deal from about 3 races ago. It was floating around there because I posted stuff about it on the Instagram account, the FOFA Instagram account, and had people, challenge me about it and say, hey, this is just vaporware, this is not real. It's like, well, it may not be, and we're not saying it is, but what we are saying is that there are too many credible sources saying that this is what's going on. So where there's smoke, there's probably fire. And now today there's fire. And so I went back to those people. I saved their little comments and I said, hey, just so you know, we were right.
Can we pour one out for Logan Sargent?
Right. Poor Logan. Yeah.
And I just want to add,
Logan, the Alpine next year.
My favorite leak of all time was Alpine when they were like, oh, we're now signing Oscar Piastri. He's like, no, you're not. Bye. Go on, McLaren. And he said it was about that much excitement too.
Okay, so in Alpine's defense, they had all the talks with him up until then. Zach Brown literally came down like 2 weeks prior to that announcement It was like, hey, if they're not willing to give you a seat, then sign on this line and we'll give you a seat next year. And all of a sudden, Alpine was ready to move him up because Fernando went to Aston Martin because Vettel announced his retirement suddenly. Like, it was just like, wait, what? And so they're like, okay, time to bring up Oscar. And I mean, they put a lot of money into Oscar. And I would say a lot of people lost a lot of respect for Oscar on that move. I mean, granted, he's earning it back now, but it was a shit move to pull. Like, it really was. Plus, you had all the Ricardo fans saying, fuck you, because you're taking his seat. So, yeah, no. I don't have respect for the kid for that, but I can respect his driving on top of that, though. So,
yeah, I don't hold it against him. Hold it against Zach.
Oh, well, I mean, there's more than enough to hold against Zach. Let's not even get started on that, man. But I would have at least given Alpine a year. Like, I really would have. I think it would have been the more professional thing to do, considering they brought you up through the academy. They sponsored you all throughout. Like, just to give them a shit reason like that, no. So, I mean, good on the kid now looking back. Oh, absolutely.
He made the right choice. Although in the beginning it didn't look that way because McLaren started out kind of bad at the beginning of the season. They're like, and when he first joined the team. Now it's like, oh yeah, they're legitimately the second, if not fastest car on the track. Questionable strategies, but at least they're not the clown show at Ferrari.
I mean, Ferrari's just got screwed in their development, and they have shit strategy because they're trying to make up for the screwed development. So they're failing miserably now. That's once again why I keep saying, like, everybody was all happy about Lewis getting to drive the red car. Oh, he's going to get championship 8. No, he's not. Not with Ferrari.
We'll see. We'll see.
I disagree.
It's a new year. There's going to be regulations. Yeah. You don't know. It's too difficult to predict what's
jumped in a back alley right now.
Oh, I will predict the shit out of this right now.
Go.
Here's what I see.
I will be absolutely amazed if Lewis Hamilton serves out his full contract at Ferrari.
Put your amaze underwear on when it happens, because Vasseur behind the wheel has not finished his time at Ferrari yet, and I see him.
And Vasseur's first upgrade package has worked so well, hasn't it?
Well, let's put it this way: if Lewis was with Ferrari at the start of the season, he'd have more wins than he does with Mercedes.
No, I think he would have one less, actually.
No, I don't agree with that. Mercedes car was performing well initially, and with him in it, I think he would have had more wins than he has now.
I think hoping for anything more than 2 wins right now is actually kind of a pipe dream, in all honesty. I mean, hell, Lewis, if George would have just thrown that spanner in his uniform, that would have been fine. But realistically, I can't see it happening. Ferrari always finds a way to fuck it up. It has been this way since Schumacher left them. They have found a way to screw. No, I take that back. Because I forgot about
Kimi.
Everybody forgets about Kimi.
He was just so quiet until he wasn't. Like, he was so quiet until he wasn't. And then all hell broke loose. But I was trying to think if somebody else had won with him. But no. 2008 is a long time. Or not 2008. That was the last shot they had at it.
They were very competitive during Hamilton's time. They just may have been cheating. No, let me rephrase that. They were definitely circumventing the rules in a way that did not meet the intent, but they had the veto card, and it wasn't worth outing them after the fact. So I think it shows that there's development across the board in all teams. They're all trying to do something a little funny, whether it's extra brake pedals or steering columns that move, and that's all the same team. Anyway, so it'll be fun in years to come to see what Vasseur can make of the team, and to see what Vettel, I'm not Vettel, bringing back the ghost, see what Lewis can do with a teammate, a fast teammate. Because don't forget, Leclerc kind of put Vettel to bed, and that was rough. Like, I did not want to see that. I was like, who the hell is this guy, right? But we all thought the same thing about Max too. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, why is he such a jerk? We now know it's Yas's fault, but whatever. Max is a hell of a driver, and I look forward to seeing whoever's going to be his teammate for the rest of the season and next season. But anyway, what's next, Rich?
Hold up. I almost forgot about this. Since we are on the Ferrari topic, he's back. Spinito.
He is.
He is back, and I cannot wait. I want to see it. I cannot wait. I hope he turns Alpine around and just goes like this to Ferrari the whole way. They are fucking furious that he signed with Alpine, by the way. Like, absolutely furious. And it's like, y'all bitch just fired him. How is this his fault? He was back on the grid. Let him.
For second place, too. You fired him after second place. No, like that's not to negate that his strategies, his mistakes cost that team and cost those drivers some wins. And that creates a rift amongst the team and certainly ruins the chemistry, damages the reputation of Ferrari. They're very prima donna-esque. They like to be seen as the best of the best, and when they're not, they don't handle it well. As per the firing of somebody for taking second place, I use it as an example all the time. It is how cutthroat this business can be. Mm-hmm. And to your criticism of Piastri signing with McLaren, why? Loyalty to who? And show me the examples of loyalty in this sport. There isn't any like shining good ones. Companies are not loyal to their drivers. Drivers should not be loyal to their teams. I say this whenever in other sports, an athlete wants to transfer for more money. Good. Go make your money. The team doesn't give a shit about you. The fans, people like us, care, but that's about it. And that's where your loyalty needs to lie, is to you and you alone in these sports. Sometimes you definitely have to be selfish. When it comes to business and money, come on. When it comes to sacrificing, a position or two, you guys already know my feelings about that. That's for the team. That's why you get paid what you get paid.
What are your feelings on radio etiquette?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've spoken about it enough. No, but as a driver, no, your loyalty should be to you and you alone, because otherwise you're going to get taken advantage of. And especially the age he was at, why would I stay with Alpine and put this trash livery on my car from this upcoming movie?
Why'd you hate that so much? I thought it was good.
I think that is the best one-off livery of the year.
Yeah. Rich,
I was pretty impressed with it.
That's not saying much. Yeah. How many one-off liveries have there been?
There's been 7.
Been a few.
All right. Well, it's certainly
okay. Let me put it this way: my 5-year-old could have designed a better fucking car than Ferrari did with that goddamn livery. That was absolute.
Oh yeah, that was trash.
Livery.
My so this car is not any better.
Ferrari's car is ugly. It's so ugly. It's ugly in the game.
Yeah. And that monstrosity. Oh, sorry, Fabian. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell me why you mad, Jay. Tell me why you mad.
I mean, I said I had to give kudos to F124. I was like, you guys did a good job modeling these cars, because this thing is as ugly as it is on television. No, really, when you sit in it, you sit in the Mercedes and it's got this beautiful glossy, it's just gorgeous, The McLaren, best looking car in the game. You get in the Ferrari and it's like, what is this? Looks like somebody's old fire truck that they left outside for a while,
If BMW still had a team, would their brake ducts be really big and the radiator inlets be these monstrosities like their street cars? See, every Mercedes, not every BMW, oh my God, the other Bavarian bomber, all of them. I saw it at the races yesterday, and the fucking front grills were everywhere. Its fog light grill was the size of my whole Mustang grill. I'm like, what the hell is this thing?
They've gone out of control with those grills, and you've seen it on the new cars where it's just like a sticker, basically, and not like a high quality one either. It looks so tacky and shitty. This was our most heavily debated topic in the group chat over the week, was whether this livery was good or not. And you kept saying, well, what would you have done differently? What would you have done differently? Allow me to demonstrate. Ignore my.
And it's god awful, and that's what I've been trying to say.
We got a screen share. We're getting fancy. Let's do it. Screen share.
the livery he designed,
success.
Can you guys see it?
Come on,
I don't know what you were thinking.
I want to see.
Not yet.
Is it not coming up?
Broke it already.
I don't see it.
Man. All right.
Man, come on, man.
There it is.
There we go.
Here we go.
Whoa.
That is god awful, dude.
Whoa.
The yellow makes it look so much better because you have the same yellow
Better.
color as the slashes. Yes. What did
Is
they
this a toy
do?
that comes in a
What did they
Happy
do?
Meal? What the hell is this?
Bro, did they get sponsored by McDonald's?
Happy Meal.
Fuck, that's
No,
horrifying.
they got sponsored by the movie that Ryan Reynolds was in.
Did you see the was it Pierre's car that had the silver on it instead of the white like Ocon's did? Or was it just one side? But there was silver going through it, and it actually looked amazing. It was in the garage. Better. Yeah.
I think what they produced was shit. And yeah, just garbage. The tiny Deadpool logo on the front, like what the F was even this? And then just yellow slashes on the back. And then just weird red paint for no reason.
You don't think it was better than what they had before?
Yeah, the
pink and
black
just about it was
monstrosity.
better than what they had before. I think Williams custom one. What race was that? Silverstone was the best.
I like that one. That was cool.
Okay, I'll give you that one. That one was the best of the year with the names and the British flag.
We will not come to terms on this.
Wait,
that was very cool.
Do we all agree?
But
Baby,
this
do you
one
agree?
was the
We do.
this one was the second best.
Oh, everybody agreed on something. It's a miracle. Bad for reviews, but that's a good thing.
But yes, the Alpine livery was the second best of the year so far, hands down.
Did you guys watch any of that Porsche Cup race?
I did not.
Where are you finding this on the app? I looked on the app. I can't find the Porsches.
Go
me
hit
the Porsches.
Hit schedule when for the weekend. Hit schedule, and then it shows all of the races. Otherwise, I'll walk you through. Yeah, I'll show you later.
Tell me like
though.
I'm
like
5.
It's on the left hand side. We'll talk about it offline.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I'll help you.
Are we pivoting to Russell now?
That guy.
But
this mother effer?
Did you get? No, not yet. Did you guys watch that Porsche Cup race? Did anybody see it?
No.
It was awesome, especially at this track. Like, oh my God, it was just controlled chaos. And I say controlled, uncontrolled chaos. It was awesome. You had cars going off all the turning zones and like drive off zones the entire
turning
time.
Zones. It's a technical term for our new viewers.
Drive off
turning where the cars have to make a turn.
Yes. When the vroom vroom goes off the track and it can't stop.
Was this like the German version? Because it's Porsches. Was it like the German version of Spec Miata races where like half of them are upside down, drivers are pointed in the wrong direction, or like, which way do I go now?
Not a ton of accidents or people wrecking. Just a ton of really close wheel-to-wheel racing, like almost butt drafting in certain moments. I was like, whoa. Like it was 10 times more exciting the entire time than the F2 race and
I gotta go back and watch this.
The actual F1 race. It was
if Rich would just help me find it, I'd watch it.
I will show you immediately after this.
He's gonna bust out the
terms.
All right, since nobody
now can we
else
talk about
watched
Russell?
But yes, let's talk about Russell.
Fine, thank God.
Russell.
Literally the most important thing that happened this weekend. Russell didn't win a race. Who wants to take that one and run?
I'm going to let Fabian explain why, because he broke the news to me first about the tire marbles, and then I saw it afterwards. So, yeah, thank you for always breaking news to me. I try to get to you. Like, anytime I get some kind of crazy news and he hasn't sent it to me or posted it yet, I send it to him immediately.
Yes.
Let the adult tell us what happened.
Well, I mean, so it was something that I wasn't really privy to, right? So when it happened, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What the heck is going on? I wasn't aware, I guess, because they don't share this stuff with us when they do a live broadcast. They don't put the radio on and say, hey, Max, don't forget to drive on the dirty part of the track and pick up as much rubber as you can on the way in so you make weight. Like they don't do that. But that's kind of what goes on, basically, is his tires. I mean, when they showed the comparison of his tire versus a tire on an in lap, it was like, oh yeah, I get it, because those tires are so hot that all that rubbering that happens on the track, they pick it up. It just basically cakes on there. And that's where you get, your few here, and there. And you got 4 tires and bingo, bango, you've got 2 kilograms of rubber and rocks on your wheels, and you're good to go. Blew me away because all I could think about as I'm letting them explain this to me on the TV is the celebration. The champagne and the celebration and all that, and how that just went to hell in a handbasket. And one of the first things I saw, I think it might have been on X, was that somebody said from the track, like from the paddock area, Lewis isn't even here. He left already. He's on a flight going we don't know where. And then it took a while before he chimed in and said, really unfortunate, blah, blah, blah. But it was such a bizarre, obscure thing that's in the rule book that to learn how they manage that in that way is mind-blowing. That there's enough rubber laid down on that track that all those cars can pick it up on the way in and make weight. And then I didn't realize that they weigh all of them. I wasn't aware of this. Like, I had no clue. I figured they'd weigh the ones that won, but I would think that they would want to do that before they do the podium celebration, at least the first 3 cars, get those done.
So if you watch, and we pointed this out the other week when Russell had his water issue, which I was actually right. It was a water cooling issue.
It was water.
May have been something else.
I meant to tell you that you are right.
Yeah, my other theory was that it was a weight thing. So like if there's not enough in there, if it leaked out or something, like it could put him under weight. Or if he can't drink enough water to stay hydrated, it could put the whole car underweight. Because you'll notice as soon as the top 3 get out of their cars, they immediately go over and have to stand on a scale after they do the hugs. They have to go weigh themselves. Right. And then they weigh the cars like outside, and then they weigh them again inside on 2 different scales. So we witnessed that. I also had absolutely no idea. I did notice like the odd behavior of driving on that outside line at Silverstone when Lewis was celebrating. And I can't remember who it was, but was like right behind him. And I was like, what kind of shit is this, man? Are you trying to like be kind of a jerk and get it on his celebration? Or is there some kind of logical reason? And nobody else seemed to make a big deal out of it. So it was, kind of went under the radar.
Right.
But now that makes complete and total sense as to why I saw that. And I thought the same thing in Miami when I was actually there. And I saw him driving, during the cool down. And it was like, why? Like, why is everybody like, I guess to save engine wear and like other things, but I never put it together with the tire marbles. Didn't even know
it's like being on the firing range, police up the rubber.
Yeah. Go pick up
police
the brass.
Right? Go get it.
And I mean, hey, more power to him because it actually helps the track, helps the the stewards and the people on the track clean it up, and then apparently keeps you above weight. And like, it's insane that it comes down to this small margin, right? And like that's where Russell's umbrage should come from. My opinion of this too, and this is why I wanted to wait to talk about this towards more of the end because it was a big topic. But my opinion is that something like this should not cost him an entire race. Something this minor, minuscule, if it's quite obvious that he was not cheating, if, I think good on the team and good on Toto and everybody saying like, hey, there's no excuse for it. We screwed this up. We bite the bullet. It wasn't George's fault. The team, as you pointed out earlier, the engineer is supposed to remind him before he to make this cool down lap. That's not there at Spa. Like you're right there. So I think this should be like a 10 grid penalty for the next race, or even start from the paddock. Like I don't care, but to negate the entire race to me and the standings, it's just, I don't like it. It was obviously not a deliberate cheating attempt, so it shouldn't be treated as such is sort of my opinion.
Yeah, there were extenuating circumstances.
What's that, Greg?
Thanks, baby. I just did some quick math. There were some extenuating circumstances that announcers were talking about it early on. There were people's tire strategies were getting blown out of the water because there was no safety car. And everyone just kept thinking, well, sooner or later there's going to be a safety car. But we all know, like after the first bit, you're really only probably going to get live towards the end when people are pushing hard and they make a mistake, right? But by that time, all the strategies are already out of the water. So this didn't necessarily boil down to tire strategy for having him lose the race. He won the race because he had a good tire strategy. What made him lose the race was the fact that they burned too much fuel. I just did the quick math. He only had 3/4 of a gallon left in the car. Now that's plenty for the test because 3/4 of a gallon is 2.8 liters and they only need 1 liter to do the fuel test. But the problem was they had estimated the weight of the car based on finishing the race under a safety car. Frankly, I think that's too risky. I think that's one of those things where the race strategist should have been like, yeah, there's likely to be one, but if there isn't, this car still needs to be legal at the end of the race. Like I know when I set up race cars, like we're not pushing the edge that much. If you can't win with a legal car, there's no sense going too far down low. Should he have dipped offline and picked up rubber? Yeah. Could he have found 3 pounds of rubber? I don't know. Like, I'm not so sure about that. At that point, I would have just driven into the gravel, been like, oh, sorry, I was celebrating. Now there's all this rock in the radiators and stuff to the floors, but I don't know. I interrupted somebody. I don't know if it was Fabian or Jay.
So here's my thing with it is the rules are the rules for a reason. Does not matter whether it's a competitive edge. It doesn't matter if it's a safety thing. It doesn't matter if it's, whatever else random ass thing that you can do. Because, I mean, look at the pit lane speedometer or speed limiters, 0.5 miles over. Like, is that really going to hurt anyone more than what they're already coming in at? No. Yeah. Is it going to do anything else? No. But yet they'll take a huge penalty if they do that.
Not the entire race in a win. That's what we're talking about. Like this huge of a penalty.
Okay.
Like keep that same energy the next time Max runs into somebody or fucking Yuki crashes into somebody. And say like they cost somebody a race. And so they should have their results voided and their points voided for the entire race.
I don't disagree, but there are certain standards. Fuel, you have to have a liter for testing. Vettel was this DQ'd for that back in 2021, 2022. Can't remember. The plank wear, we were actually talking about this, Rich, the other night, and you didn't know about this, which is there is a wooden plank that runs along the floor of the car in the dead center of it. If there is enough wearing on that plank, you're disqualified because your car was running too low and it would be too dangerous. So that took out Lewis and Chucky Boy last year in Coda, I believe it was. And I mean, are you going to say that they shouldn't have been disqualified either? I mean, the rules are there for a fucking reason, whether it be to protect somebody or to keep the competitiveness across. Because I mean,
and the teams will exploit them.
Yes, because realistically, you could have one team that's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it this way. We're going to race one person one way. We'll have them in front. We'll have the other car backing them up so much. But they will have so much wear on their plank that they'll get DQ'd, but they can't get around that guy in order to catch that first place. 5 races go by just like that. What do you do there? That's basically what this boils down to, Rich, is like they will find a loophole to exploit. And that's why Toto and them, just like whenever they go to jump into the crowds before they get weighed, if they do that, they risk getting their race thrown out for doing that. And that right there is more emotional to me, like emotion-based, than anything else. And all it takes, and I think they said this in whenever Sainz won in Australia, you can't do that because your mechanic could literally drop a spanner into your coveralls.
Yep. And that's the thing that has happened.
Yeah, yep. Like this is all things that. Now, also, there is a damage clause to that, Rich, with the weight limiters. If there is damage to the car, the weight limit has to be applied, the part that was there originally, minus that part. If that is the same weight, then they're not disqualified. But because of the way that it went is the reason why he was disqualified. And I mean, realistically, I don't necessarily know if the tire marbles would have done it. I don't even know if they count those as a thing that they can actually do. So, because I mean, they could take off. We don't know what they do inside.
Yeah.
Well, no, we can see the outside whenever they're weighing cars. We can't see the inside whenever they're weighing cars. They may make them put a fresh set of rubbers on there in order to see what the difference is. So
I I agree with you, and I agree with Greg in the aspect that, rules are rules, and you shouldn't cut it so close that you run the risk of this. Like, this is known to you if you show up underweight, that you run the potential of being disqualified from the entire race, which is why Toto and the team is responding in the manner that they are, where they're owning it and like, there's no excuses. We just have to do better. And I just think that the penalty for this is like a bit much to me. So that's the only umbrage that I have with it. I think the penalty should be less harsh. I believe there's an appeal process for them to be able to appeal this sort of thing. So maybe that will happen. No, if I already, they're not going to protest it anyways. Actually, never mind. So disregard. If they wanted to protest it, there is a formal process for that, but it's a kangaroo court anyway. So I don't know why you would engage in it. It's the FIA.
I mean, he is a Brit, so he might have a chance at it. The FIA is biased towards them.
BDRCA, British Racers Driving Association, BRDA.
I forget what it is. But regardless, I don't think they could appeal it because Mercedes, whenever they went into the garage with the FIA to weigh the car, they saw what the car was at. And not to mention, this was a huge screw up on Mercedes, absolutely huge. They knew there was no cooldown lap. So you run that risk really badly. So George, even I'm sorry, if you've been racing for more than one season, to hit that line to pick up whatever scraps you can. If there's not enough there, they're probably dipping a tire into the gravel anyways. Realistically, that in the back of your mind that, hey, this could present an issue, especially if you're in the top 10, because any car in the top 10 can be picked at random to go through an inspection, fuel testing, weighing, anything. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, but no, I feel bad for George. I do. And y'all know how much I hate that latte drinking motherfucker. But the kid earned that win. He made the right call and everything, and he got screwed. But at the end of the day, he still won that race. Just like Sebastian Vettel still won Canada. Anyways, I will say that is one thing that irked me whenever you said something about Lewis Hamilton, as far as not congratulating Lewis or Russell until later.
Everything irks you about Lewis Hamilton. You got to narrow it down.
No. This one isn't even about Lewis on this one. Yeah. The fucking LH fanboys. Jesus Christ. Lewis saying that he had some left in the tires that he could have kept on going and probably pulled the same strat is now turned into, oh, Mercedes is sabotaging Lewis. I'm sick of it. Seriously, there is no reason for Mercedes to sabotage Lewis right now whatsoever. Yes, he is leaving the team, so he is.
I agree with you, Jay. I'm surprised that this is one conspiracy theory you don't adhere to.
There's no reason to. They will only hurt themselves in the Constructors' Championship, which is the championship that matters, correct?
Yeah, that's the money.
Yeah.
That's the dollars.
There's a huge difference between first and second place. Right now, they're fighting for – actually, I think they might be in second place right now. I don't know.
I haven't looked at it. I don't know.
The battle for third is getting hot with them.
I want to say, yeah, they're still – so they – ooh. Oh, that's right. George got disqualified. So, yeah, no, that really kind of screwed them up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So, I mean, they are less than 100 points behind McLaren right now. And the way the McLarens are going, there's a possibility that Lando is going to get pissed and take out Oscar at some point and ruin both their races. So, let's be real here. Dude, Lando is... There's a lot of rumors going around that Lando is going to become the number 2 here soon. And if that happens, I see somebody catching a rear end. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think McLaren will finish the year in second. I don't. It's. I don't even see Red Bull taking first.
No,
I'm saying I don't see Red Bull I just literally said that I do not see Red Bull winning the Constructors' Championship, especially with the news that we got today. If it's straight up, he will remain in the actual Red Bull team. They will not win the Constructor with him.
The Constructor battle is going to be hot the second half of the year. There's no doubt about it, right? Because you've got teams where 2 drivers can win, essentially Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. But we're not really seeing that with Red Bull, and they're only 40-ish points back now. That's 2 weekends.
Yeah, 42 points back on Red Bull. 42 points back on Red Bull. Unless if they bring the RB19 back out of retirement, I don't necessarily know how the hell they're going to do this. But
so I'll say this to that. I'll say this to that. They got the wrong aerodynamic package chosen this weekend. They're usually good at that, but the weather at spas, when they're hit or miss, when they go to places where like they know the weather's just going to be hot, they're probably not going to make that same error. And Max is going to have an easier time coming through the field because the track won't be so dependent on DRS or wherever they are. I think Max is still going to be a dominant force going through the year, but I think we will continue to see the McLarens hassle him. We might see Ferraris find a track where they're good at. And I think the Mercedes, I don't know, man, they seem to be hitting on all cylinders, and like they're going to be there to collect those other points. So I'm really looking forward to the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship going forward this year. But like obviously Max, let's see here. I'm going to go back up here, click on drivers. Yeah. So Max is he's 80 points out. So he's at least 3 to 4 weekends of wins away from Norris. So
and that's him not finishing either too. So
yeah, right. Because if he's going to keep finishing second and third, he doesn't go away that easy. The guy's, it's kind of sticky. But yeah, Piastri,
he'll keep getting
167.
But
Leclerc 177, Norris 199. Like that's close. Sainz is right there.
That's the battle right there.
Yeah,
we called this.
Anything,
I called this like 6 weeks ago and said, McLaren is going to be pushing for the Constructors because Lando is getting podiums and Oscar is not too far behind, and they have a good 1-2 combo and probably one of the best teams right now between those 2 drivers as far as consistency and effort each week that they go. But carry on, Greg. Sorry if I interrupted.
No, it's all good. I was just ranting about how good this is going to be and how these regulations work. I hope the next regulations build upon this. They're going to have their own challenges. I get it. I am enjoying F1. We've all talked about how we used to watch F1, but then somebody dominated and we went away. This is cool. Like, I don't mind seeing Max work for his wins, right? I recognize he's a great driver. I don't mind seeing Lewis stumble sometimes because we know he's a great driver, right? I wish we could have said this about all the great drivers, but now we get to see some of the younger ones come up and start being those greats, right? Like Oscar Piastri. We were just talking about how he was just the kid who blew off his time at Alpine and made the wrong decision to go to a struggling McLaren. Easily the best, fastest car on the track yesterday, just coming through the field. It was like, excuse me, high-rated driver. Excuse you, high-rated driver. Just making passes, moving through the field. Like a couple more laps, slight different decision, maybe a safety car. That dude would have been right there. Well,
for sure.
That's what I say about that.
It's awesome to see. So this is the most competitive season since 2012. We have 7 different GP winners this year. And you're absolutely right, Greg. This is exactly what we want to see. I think as racing fans, and I think this is going to continue to draw more attention to the sport. We've also talked about, casual Drive to Survive fans. And this is what keeps people hanging around, hanging on, and not getting tired of the sport and abandoning it like Jay.
To be fair, I just coming out of Vettel's dominance, going into Hamilton's dominance. I'm like, I'm done. I cannot watch one driver dominate forever. And the way that first season went with the new rules, and Mercedes was just literally slamming the door on everybody. Like, there wasn't even anybody close. And it was just like, okay, this is going to be bad. I was starting to say the same shit to you last year, Rich. Like, this is kind of getting old. Like, it was cool to see history being made. But at the same time, it was like, are we really going to have to put up with this for another 2 fucking years? So,
yeah.
I don't know. You're muted anyway.
And that's
Rich.
the budget right there. Those are budget regulations making that happen. That is exactly what's going on there. It's like, here you go, Red Bull. You won. Cool. Now we're going to give you slightly less. And then they were like, no food budget for you. Get out of here. And we're seeing it. They have to actually work and guess more and struggle. And I like this. I also like seeing all of the teams show up with parts. And then you see a grinder come across the part because that's free for them. They don't have to like choose that as a second part. They could just take some excess material off. And that reminds me of just like the pits on a Saturday night at any old dirt track in America. Like, well, this didn't work. Just cut that shit off. Like whatever. I dig it. It's like Kentucky windage when it comes to aerodynamics, but in spot.
Was it Yuki took a 60 place grid penalty this weekend? They're just like, okay, we got to replace everything.
Yes.
This may not be the last replacement penalty that Max gets either. I don't know if you guys saw the chart, but he's at the end of his rope on just about every component. He may have to eat things later on, and like that's going to help the Constructors Championship battle. I still do not believe, and I think we're all in agreement here for like the second time ever, that Max is going to get dethroned from the Drivers' Championship this year. I don't see anybody catching him, barring like several accidents and failures and DNFs on his part. That's what it would have to take, like 4 weekends of Max not scoring points for him to not be able to win the Drivers' Championship at this point. Before we wrap, because we're getting there, guys, what do you predict for the off season?
Ooh.
You mean the summer break?
Summer break, sorry.
He's saying silly season, basically.
Yeah, silly season. So my prediction is that we will have a full grid for 2025 at the end of the summer break. Everybody's contracts will be signed, and we'll know who's going where tentatively with the Red Bull situation, because that's the only one that's very difficult.
I don't think we're going to know that one.
It's the only question mark that I have, but I think everybody else is going to lock down and lock in their drivers for 2025. So that's my bold prediction. What do you guys got?
I'm sitting here trying to think of who else needs seats right now, because you have the second Cash App seat, you have the second Sauber seat, you have the second Audi, sorry. The second Alpine seat, and then that in the second Mercedes seat, but we all know that's going to Kimi Antonelli, so what does that matter? So you really only have 3 seats. You're not like, it's not that out of the possibilities that it'll be done, but I don't know. After today's news, I'm just like, forget this silly season. I'm done. Like, realistically, Checo getting to keep his seat is beyond me. Like, it absolutely has to do with money, and I'm wondering if the amount of money from the constructors for first to second is made up by like double for Checo taking the sponsorships and leaving. Like, that's the only thing I can come up with at this point.
Huh.
He does bring in a lot of money. I don't know how much or where to find that, but that's a pretty reasonable consideration.
There's 6 races until Mexico. Maybe he stays around for 6 races, because that's a thing. There's money there.
Yeah, might want to drive that last race.
And then after that, there's only 4 races.
But it doesn't hurt them to put him down in Red Bull Racing for that. Or Racing Bulls, sorry. It really doesn't, because all that matters is that he's on the grid.
Is that what RB stands for? Racing Bulls? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. So
learn something new every day.
I cannot make heads or tails of this. I've got to find out the sponsorship numbers and the merchandising numbers, because that is literally the only thing that makes sense. Like, I know he brings in 60% of the merchandise revenue, but
damn,
dude, you got to remember, there's a hell of a lot of countries that would rather support him rather than the Dutchman. But yeah, no. And then I know a couple of sponsors for a couple of Mexican companies that sponsor him. I can't even fathom why they're keeping him, because I mean, they literally are going to hit cost cap without being able to develop this year. He's already caused $6 million in damage to cars.
That's fucking terrible.
Like, it might even be more by now because I don't know if it factored in the Hungarian crash they had.
I remember last time we compared it, but it was less than Logan Sargent, or it was more than Logan Sargent, like greatly more. Like we get on our national embarrassment for not, showing up and crashing all the time, but at least he's not costing millions upon millions of dollars this way, because that's a huge point, because that does eat into your development costs, and that's what's going to limit and hold Max back, and why Red Bull is not the fastest on the grid potentially now. So when we say things like this guy's costing them Constructors Championship, really what we're saying is this guy's costing Red Bull a lot of money. And that is the quickest way to get yourself fired from any job, is to start costing your employer money. Like, he ain't making enough to make up for it probably. So,
well, it doesn't matter if he makes up for it. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
I was going to say, it doesn't matter if he makes up for it because it doesn't help the cost cap at all. Like, that's the problem. $6 million is a drop in the hat for Red Bull for overall revenue. But for the cost cap, that is development on at least a new wing. Like, that's what you got to think about, and production for a new wing. So
that's what I'm saying. His breaking the car cost them, and so whatever money he brings in doesn't impact that.
So the latest total that I can find is from May 29th for crash damages. And that was right before Monaco, or Monaco might not be factored into this. Checo was at $2.4 million just right there at that point. There's been 6 races since then. Or 5. 5, I apologize. Like,
5.
And he wrecked in probably 3 or 4 of those. You got to think, like, that's a lot of money. His next closest person, Albon, at $2 million. Like, we may joke, but Logan Sargent's in 8th.
I think he froze. There you go.
Yeah, and then Yuki Boy, before his crash last weekend, was only at $5,000. $5,000. He busted a front wing. That's it, I think.
500,000?
No, 5,000.
500,000?
No, 5,000.
He broke the microphone in his helmet by yelling at it.
I was gonna say, what did he do? Like, throw the steering wheel? Even that's $14,000.
No, I was gonna say that's steering. He might have.
Steering wheels are 40 to 70 grand, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're insane. So. Yeah, it's like $40,000.
Helmets are $30,000. Yeah.
What the hell costs $5,000 on an F1 car?
He probably broke that the carbon fiber halo rest thing that goes around their shoulders.
Like stepped on it or something?
Through it or something. Or he might have tapped the front end plate. You never know. Like, it could be something as stupid as that.
Well, I mean, that's good. Then he just ramped that thing into a wall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His total definitely went up after that one. But
yeah.
No, you've really got to think. Checo is more than likely at 6 million, 6.5 million right now. And that could be what's costing Red Bull and Max their championships at the moment.
Yep. Agreed. Fabian, what do you got for predictions for summer break?
Well, I definitely think that, obviously the Checo thing, he's there for the summer, but I think at the end of the season, that's a different story. Definitely think the other 2 teams are going to probably want to go ahead and sew things up before we get back to racing again, to get that noise out of the space, because you've got a couple of weeks to be able to develop and do the things you need to do. You got some downtime. It just seems like it would be logical for them, now that there's been some movement with Checo and Sainz, for the rest. And I think it leaves us, 2 teams that need to consolidate their seats. It seems like it's going to be time for them to do that and get that done. Let the noise of all that media hype tamper down and get into the next race when it comes in, with all of that in the rearview mirror, literally, pun intended, right? So that they can just focus on, the race to the finish, really. Because next year we'll be here before they know it, and they're already going to be in the development spin up. So it looks like that's what they're going to want to do. I really believe that. I don't know who's going to, really wind up where. I mean, we have a darn good read based upon the sources that I've been using and how consistent they've been that Kimi's doing the Mercedes thing. It looks like that's what it is. Despite the fact that he said, I'm still learning. He probably, kid's smart, you downplay the expectations a little bit. That's a smart thing to do, especially because he's not going to be there this year anyway. He's got time to practice and develop, and he's got a lot of time on his hands to get ready. I think if he comes in next year, it'll be exciting, But I don't foresee there being anything unusual happening. I just don't really have a good idea of where the other ones are really going to go just yet.
Fair. Greg, what about you? What do you have predicting for summer break?
I feel like we're going to come back with some revived energy. That may be obvious because they're getting, a month off, but this is tense. We have not seen so many drivers be available for a win on a weekend. And I really think that what we're going to see is a very deserving champion. And I'll say something that Jay will look up from his computer and be like, the fuck did he just say? Do I agree with him or not? Like his blood will just be boiling. I think this might be Max's best championship, because if you go back and you look at all of the results, just the driver's championship from years past when he's won, or even come in second, not second because it was Bottas, but this is it. Like he is being challenged the most here. And I think we will see the best drives from Max from now until the end of the year. We heard it on the radio on Sunday. Engineers pleading with their drivers like, hey, remember when we told you to save tires? Don't do that anymore. Just put your foot down, do everything, deploy all energies, give me qualifying laps. I heard it from numerous engineers, and that pleases me to no extent when they're like, release the dogs of war and just let's see what 1,000 horsepower looks like in an open wheel car. And seeing it at Spa was cool, and we're going to go to tracks that have much different character. Some of our old tracks, some are new tracks. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be fun. Can't wait to come back and talk to you guys in another couple, whatever. I know we're gonna do some break stuff, and I'm looking forward to that too. And it's good, man.
We're so first of all, happy birthday, Fernando Alonso, 43 years old today.
All right,
insane tenure in this sport.
Born in the 1900s.
Yeah, crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Damn near been in F1 since the 1900s.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. 43 years old, still on the grid, still putting up a good fight. Have nothing but respect for him, despite some of the announcers calling him a petulant child and people in journalism forgetting to put respect on that man's name. But he's two-time world champion who took down one of the greatest drivers of all time in Michael Schumacher. So speaking of history, old drivers in the 1900s, next week we will be discussing races from the 1900s. We're going to flash back to the 1970s, and so we'll have some of the topics, but just a little quick preview. We're going to discuss what were the best engines, what was our favorite race of the 1970s, who were our favorite drivers. We'll have lots to report on during the off season. Summer break, and we'll in the off season. We'll keep this going year round. But yeah, that's what you have to look forward to during your summer break. Tune in, and we'll see you next week. This has been episode 1 of the Formula One Fans of America show. Thank you.
Awesome.